studio with Ross DeVol talking about the 2010 State Technology and Science Index. Welcome, Ross.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Now, we've been looking at measures of states' technology and science assets since 2002. What does this index measure?
It really looks at how well states are positioned to take advantage of the new phase of growth. In other words, the United States is no longer going to be able to compete on low costs and the brawn of its labor force. We're going to compete on how well we can utilize the human capital that we have and the research capacity and to turn that into economic development. In other words, we have to tie our innovation assets to job creation in the very high end of the knowledge-based economy.
And so which states are doing well?
Well, the top four stayed the same as they have in the past few years. Massachusetts clearly number one of the leading research centers in the world. Second was Maryland, which was first in human capital overall. You have the NIH, you have lots of federal government research organizations that are there. And third was Colorado, that slipped ahead of California. It's been ahead of California for a couple of years, but that's surprising to a lot of people. California was still fourth despite all the budget problems in the state. It still remained fourth. Utah slipped into fifth overall, moving up several positions, about three, and actually was first in terms of technology output measures, in terms of job growth in many high-tech industries. And it's mainly been in medical devices that has been a real leader for the state.
And so those states are doing well, means that they're growing their jobs, growing their assets, and their universities and their R&D, and also on the production side and on the commercial side. But what states are just not really making it into this new economy?
Well, the states that have been at the bottom have remained there. States like Arkansas, Mississippi, West Virginia, many of the southern states have not progressed. They don't have the research assets and not been making the proper investments, over-relying on their low costs. They can compete against other states with low business costs, but they can't compete against China and India with low business costs. And they've been slow to adjust their paradigm and to make investments in the universities and their human capital, and they're suffering the consequences of that.
And obviously they face challenges that these other states have had those assets for a while and continue to grow them. It's hard to be a state to enter into that, and then you have an international element as well that you just talked about. Talk to me about these scientists and these STEM professionals that are coming into the workforce, or at least coming to our graduate universities, or maybe not. Is the U.S. facing a brain drain?
The U.S. is definitely facing a brain drain. Maybe another way to put it is we're not having the positive inflow of brain drain like we used to. What's happened after 9/11, the unintended consequences of tightening restrictions on access to our universities, is that many foreign graduate students stopped coming here from about 2002 through 2007. Now those numbers are starting to reverse, but you've lost basically a whole generation of graduate students that were forced to go to other universities. For example, Chinese graduate students going to Japan for graduate school, to the UK, to Germany. And that's been one of our key strengths, is many of those technology graduates in engineering, hard sciences, physics, and biotechnology have stayed in the United States. Another factor behind that is the post-9/11 bubble bursting. Many entrepreneurs from India, from many other countries in Asia, have returned to their countries after the bubble burst. They're the so-called sea turtles. In other words, they've gone back home because they've developed all these entrepreneurial skills and they want to deploy them back in their host countries. So I view that as a strength for the United States to some extent, though, because it creates a network in the innovation economy. We're still the central hub of it, and they come to our venture capitalists when they want funding or trying to plug in to supply chains. So I see that as a strength long term.
Now, the last time that we looked at the index was 2008. Obviously, a lot has happened then. What, if any, measures did you see or impact did you see from the Great Recession?
Well, clearly there was a lot of pressure on government-funded programs, such as the NIH budget, which has remained flat outside of the stimulus funds. And I think there's going to be continued pressure in the new Congress moving forward to cut back on some of these programs. like the Small Business Innovation Research Awards, these funds that are in the valley of death. In other words, they're trying to get research out of the universities, out of the research centers, into the private sector. And there's going to be a lot of focus on trying to cut the funding, I think, from this Congress.
Well, those will be things that we definitely will watch for, but I think that there's a lot of information at the state level and on the national level that people can see what's going on in the human capital, what's going on in the resources, what's going on in the patents and the technology that's out there. And all of that is available on our website at www.milkeninstitute.org. Thank you so much, Ross.
Thank you, Jennifer.